Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about a single narrow strip of water that is both the key to China's incredible economic power and, at the same time, its single greatest weakness.
Okay, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll get into why this waterway is such a big deal for the whole world. Then, we'll look at China's specific problem, its dilemma. After that, we'll explore the nightmare scenario this all creates, check out the wild plans to get around it, and finally, we'll ask the big question, is there any easy way out of this?
All right, first up, the world's strategic point. We really need to understand just how crucial this waterway is. And believe me, it's not just about one country. This affects pretty much everyone on the planet.
To put this into perspective, think about this for a second. The Malacca Strait sees about 3 times more shipping traffic than the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal put together. It is, without a doubt, the world's superhighway for trade. It all comes down to geography. It's simply the shortest, fastest, and cheapest way to get ships from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. This makes it the main artery, the lifeblood, connecting all the manufacturing hubs in Asia to their markets in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East.
So we've established it's a huge deal for global trade. But for China, this global superhighway creates a very unique and very dangerous problem.
In fact, this is such a massive concern that it actually has a name, the Malacca Dilemma. The term was first used way back in 2003, and it perfectly describes this deep-seated fear that the very thing fueling your economy could become your biggest strategic weakness.
And here's where it gets really serious. About 80%, let that sink in, 80% of China's imported crude oil has to pass through this one single choke point. That's the energy that fuels their entire country.
And you know, it's not just oil, not by a long shot. Around 60% of China's total trade, we're talking all the stuff they make and sell to the world, and all the raw materials they need to make it, all of that funnels through the exact same narrow passage.
This chart right here really tells the whole story. You see that gray line shooting up? That's China's economy exploding, just hungry for more and more energy. Now look at the black line staying kind of flat. That's how much oil they can produce themselves. That massive growing gap between the two, that is the Malacca Dilemma in one picture.
This has led to a really powerful analogy. People call the strait China's economic windpipe. And it's perfect, right? Because if someone decides to squeeze that windpipe, the flow of oxygen, the oil, the gas, the materials, it just stops. The whole system can't breathe.
So, you can see where this is going. What happens if this lifeline, this windpipe, actually gets threatened?
This is the question that keeps strategists in Beijing up at night. This is their absolute nightmare scenario. What if a rival power decides to actually squeeze it shut?
Just imagine, a major conflict kicks off, maybe over Taiwan. A rival navy could, pretty easily, set up a blockade of the straits. Instantly, China's energy supplies are cut. Its supply chains are severed. The economy would be paralyzed, and their military would have a really hard time sustaining itself. And here's the kicker. China has almost no direct military control over this region. They're completely exposed. So when you're that vulnerable, what do? Well, you try to build an escape route. And that's exactly what China has been doing, spending truly staggering amounts of money on one of the biggest infrastructure projects in history, all to find a way around Malacca.
You've probably heard of China's Belt and Road Initiative, right? This globe-spanning strategy? Well, a massive part of it is basically a giant, multi-billion-dollar answer to the Malacca Dilemma. Projects like economic corridors through Pakistan and Myanmar, or even the proposed Thai land bridge, they're all designed with one main goal: find a detour.
So let's look at one of the most ambitious ideas, the Thai land bridge. The concept is kind of wild. Instead of sailing all the way around the peninsula, ships would dock, unload everything, then all that cargo would get sent 100 kilometers overland by train and truck, and then get loaded back onto another ship on the other side.
So why on earth would they do that? Well, the pros are pretty tempting. It could cut shipping time by about 4 days and reduce costs by 15%. Big win. Plus, you get to bypass all the congestion and security risks in the strait itself. The downside? Well, it's a logistical nightmare. Imagine the cost and complexity of unloading and reloading every single one of those giant ships.
But the thing is, even with all these mind-bogglingly huge projects, escaping the Malacca Dilemma is anything but simple.
I mean, you might be wondering, why not just use the other straits nearby? Well, they're just not as good. Going through the Sunda or Lombok Straits adds days to the journey and costs a fortune. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars extra every single month.
And on top of that, some of them are just too shallow for the really massive oil supertankers to get through, so that's a non-starter.
And those land routes we talked about, they aren't a silver bullet either. Every single one has a major catch. The one through Pakistan runs through some geopolitically, let's say, tricky areas. The Myanmar corridor has its own internal security problems. And that Thai land bridge, the cost is just astronomical. There is no perfect solution here.
So if you take one thing away from this, it should be this. One of the world's most powerful economies, one of the biggest growth stories in human history, is fundamentally tied to a single, vulnerable geographic feature that it does not control.
So to sum it all up, the Malacca Strait is a vital artery for the whole world. China is dangerously dependent on it, which creates this Malacca Dilemma. This fear is driving them to spend billions trying to find an escape route. But every single one of those alternatives comes with its own massive set of problems.
And that leaves us with this final massive question, one that is going to shape global politics and trade for decades. Can a country, even one with near limitless resources, actually build its way out of a geographic trap? Or is geography, in the end, still destiny?